This is the biggest news story of 2017. We have two different picks here, which is good. Matt, what is your choice for biggest news story?
My choice is the Battlefront 2 loot box controversy.
You could probably even not just quarantine that to Battlefront 2. It could
No,
just
I mean,
be loot
it's part
boxes.
of, obviously it's part of a bigger story, but I specified Battlefront 2 because it hit the mainstream media, got the attention of that senator in Hawaii who's like threatening to do some kind of legal thing about it. Like,
yeah,
you had Belgium weighing in, you had the Isle of Man weighing in. Like,
this
hit a level of news reporting that caused the head of Disney to call EA and say, "Fix this."
Well, it's been I mean, look, it's broken the boundaries of games.
Yeah.
You saw stories about this on CNN and all other major news outlets. It is one of the few stories this year that did manage to crack through the veil and kind of go overall pop culture.
So I would say, I mean, so to me, that is, that's a
big
pretty
story.
big story.
Yeah, without a doubt.
We might see, it's possible, I think it's unlikely, but it is possible that EA's poor choices in Battlefront 2 loot box, behavior could lead to legislation.
It could.
I mean,
yeah,
that's
Right.
huge.
It is, yeah.
That's big.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think...
I mean, it already has costed about $2 billion in valuation, so...
And I think, I just think that this is going to be obviously part of a conversation and story is going to continue as going through 2018. I think this is going to be a thing that we continue to struggle with and continue to push back on when it comes to large-scale publishers trying to put this kind of thing in AAA games that you've already paid for. Like I think that's where a lot of the problem comes from, is you've already paid $60 for this thing and now they don't want to give you anything.
I wonder too, at what point does the apathy kick in though for this topic? At what point do gamers get sick of hearing about it, sick of talking about it? Because we're already kind of there.
Yeah, well, the apathy was already there when it was in games that we didn't care about.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody started a protest about Need for Speed Payback because no one cared about Need for Speed Payback. But nobody
or Clash of Clans or whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, it's easy to ignore mobile games if you're a core gamer because that's not the kind of stuff we're into. But like, nobody wanted to boycott Battlefront 2 because of loot boxes. Everybody wanted to play Battlefront 2.
Yeah.
And so that's why this became a thing right off of this, I think, and same to some degree with Shadow of War, although it was not as predatory there. It was just like, it's big games that we're excited about and we don't want to have to ignore because of what we see as an ethical breach on the part of the publisher.
Yeah.
And hopefully, I mean, I would like to think that publishers learn something from this, but as we've already been talked about earlier, you've got major companies seeing this kind of thing play out and then doing the same thing. Like you would think if you saw like what happened with Shadow of War and what happened particularly with Battlefront 2's loot box situation, if you're Bungie, maybe you'd think deceiving the player base with the XP totals would not be the greatest move right now. But here we are, you know. So I think this is going to be a continuing story moving forward. I think EA is going to continue to struggle with. There's a lot of weird. If you look at like kind of like a rundown of like the big news events of this year, EA's in a lot of bad news.
Yeah,
I mean,
it really is.
Shutting down developers, canceling stuff. Like this didn't work. We got the loot box problem. I mean, they're struggling in the optics
department. As soon as Peter
department.
Moore left.
Yeah, Peter Moore leaving.
Down the crapper.
So I thought it was just sort of indicative of 2017 as a whole. I think it's going to be relevant moving forward, and I found it to be a big story. However, I think all that also applies to other things. It was a thing that stood out for me, probably because I'm so immersed in the Star Wars thing right now.
Yep. My pick for biggest news story of 2017 is the runaway success of the Nintendo Switch. Look, I'll be the first to admit I never saw this coming in a million years. I thought it might do okay. I never dreamed it would turn into the sensation that it has. And look, a lot of that is thanks to Breath of the Wild, which is a freaking amazing video game and probably the best Zelda ever made. That has a lot of draw for it, and I think Nintendo's done a great job of supporting it with software in general this year, which is a pleasant surprise as well. Holy cow, look at Nintendo holding up its end of the bargain with first-party software and getting third parties on board. But to me, the biggest story out of all that is that right now the Switch is on the same pace as the PlayStation 4, Matt.
Although PlayStation 4 did beat it last month.
It did. But right now, if you look at the first 10 months of PlayStation 4, first 10 months of Switch, the Switch has sold as much as the PlayStation 4 did in its first 10 months. That is huge for Nintendo, Matt. I mean, think about it.
Well, it's a hell of a lot better than the Wii U, that's for sure.
It's way better than the Wii U. I mean, the Wii was a success, but it was a different kind of success. It was a success with casuals and people that were never going to buy software.
Right.
That's the difference with Switch, though.
Right. But so I'm interested in the Switch moving forward into 2018 because they just announced that they've sold 10 million. Basically, which is about, I mean, a little below, but it's around the cap of the Wii U, right?
I'll remind you and all our viewers and myself, because look, when I get a call wrong, I'm not going to hide from it. I estimated 2 million before the end of this year. I was so wrong.
I want to say I said something like 5 million.
I said
but we
2.
were super wrong one way or the other. My question, so 10 million was my golden number for once it passes. 10 million was what we learned on the Wii U. There's 10 million people who will buy a Nintendo system no matter what.
No matter what, yeah.
So now we've hit the point. We've hit that point. Beyond this, I have no idea what happens to the Switch.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll say one thing. I am not going to go against Nintendo again. I mean, I was so wrong.
Well, I think it all hinges on the 2018 lineup and if they can continue the momentum. And the Nintendo Direct in January going to be real interesting.
For sure.
Because like we don't
what's
know.
Next?
We don't really know much about
next?
what's next. I mean, we know there's the Kirby. We know there's the Yoshi coming. We still need to know what
Metroid
Retro's
eventually.
game. Metroid is. I don't think Metroid is next year.
Probably
I still
not.
Think.
I'm guessing
Retro presumably has been doing something.
Smash Brothers
probably
port.
another frickin' Donkey Kong game.
Next year.
I would expect to see Smash Brothers next year. Whatever permutation.
It'll be
takes.
Smash Brothers DX. Probably. It'll just be an enhanced port of the Wii U game.
Which is fine. I mean, the more Wii U games you can put on this system, the better, because most of the people that have this system now are not going to have played them.
Yeah.
Bayonetta.
Bayonetta 3, yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, presumably there's a Pikmin in there somewhere. I mean, we've been waiting long. I mean, how long has that game been done?
A long time. And that's kind of my point, is that this is a story. Loot boxes, we're going to talk about it next year. Probably in the middle of the year next year, it'll get sorted out and it'll go away. But the Switch is going to be here for the next 5-6 years. And it wouldn't be here for the next 5 or 6 years if it wouldn't have had this year. So that's why I decided to pick it as the biggest news story. It really hasn't turned quite into the phenomenon that the Wii was. It's not getting the mainstream press coverage that, like, you aren't seeing your local news
it's not as
going out to
compelling
the nursing home and watching Granny like
because it's not as
bowl or
compelling
play
a
tennis.
visual.
Right.
You know, like people waggling things around like that is a fun thing to have B-roll of, and
Faction.
But like, you know, I think Nintendo's, the audience they've reached with the Switch is more important than that.
It is. They will buy software.
They're the ones who are going to buy the software.
That's what's most important.
And that was where the Wii faltered.
And that's the difference between and the Wii and the Wii U, for that matter.
And it's a good balance of, you know, the people who are asking, people I know who are casuals or have kids are asking me about the Switch. Like, is the right people? Is the people that normally wouldn't care about the Wii, didn't even mention the Wii U ever, but they've heard of this and they're interested and their kids are interested and it's moving forward there. The other thing, I don't know if you've been in a Target or a Best Buy recently, but there's Switches. They have them.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Like the product pipeline problem seems to have been solved, because it's not like they're not selling.
Yeah.
But you're you know, even this close to Christmas, it looks like you can walk into a lot of stores and get one if you want one, and that's important.
That's good. Yeah.
That's good.
Well,
because you can't outsell the PlayStation 4 if you don't have Switches on the shelves.
But I think, to your point, the fact that the channels are filling up with Switch and PlayStation 4 won last month, showing a little bit of softness.
Right. Well, that's kind of been my point the whole time. Is like, once you hit 10 million, do you sell beyond that?
Yeah.
Can you capture the audience beyond the audience that you already had for the Wii U? Because that's the point. I mean, you gotta.
I do think Nintendo has got extra people from the Wii U. Like, people who didn't own a Wii U have bought Switch.
Well, I certainly know plenty of people that didn't own a Wii U that have a Wii. Or a Switch. But like, the question is, can you hit that critical mass still? And you know, PlayStation 4 certainly kept its momentum up. The Switch could very well do that. And then you've got the issue of, you know, you've got a long way to go to even just tie the GameCube.
Yeah.
And the GameCube was not considered a great milestone.
It finished at like 22 or something like that.
It was 30-ish, 30 million.
I thought we had this conversation before, or I had it with somebody else. I don't think it ever hit 30.
It was closer to that, I think. It was not crazy numbers. It was at the time it was like, oh my god, a Nintendo system didn't sell 100 million. You know,
Right.
people were like freaking out. Now it's like selling GameCube level. After Wii U, selling GameCube level would be
Like,
pretty
woohoo!
cool. Yeah, it's like,
For sure.
so it's on track. It's just I think they need to make sure that next year's lineup is I don't know if you can be as compelling as a year where a great Mario and a great Zelda game came out, but like
That's
you
gonna
got
be
to
tough.
keep the interest going.
That's a challenge, though.
It is.
It's like the first year you get Mario, you get Zelda out. Those
Yeah.
are your two biggest franchises. If you don't do well with that, then you're in deep crap.
Right. And
Nintendo did.
and they
It did
did.
do well. So now what?
Right, yeah, but right now I'm looking down the barrel of a Kirby game and a Yoshi game and maybe another retro Donkey Kong game, and that looks a lot like a Wii U release lineup.
Yeah.
So
starting to.
I hope they got some stuff up their sleeve in January.
Nintendo seems to have turned over a new leaf.
Yeah.
It's doing things now that it hasn't done in a while.
Well, it's back to the games, and it's back to courting the people who buy the games.
Right.
It's back to not thinking that it can capture this kind of
Mythical gamer
magical
that
casual
doesn't
audience
exist.
that doesn't
Yeah.
even care about something that doesn't come with the system.
Yep.
So they've come back to appreciating their fans and the people that like made them a success in the first place, and they're making the games those people want to play. And
Can they
in,
keep
in
doing
a
that?
in a fair universe, that should be enough. So
It's
we'll
usually
see.
not.
Usually
It's
isn't.
usually not.
But it's working
Gotta get
so
those
far.
third parties involved for sure.